The first Guyanese Commissioner of Police after independence on May 26, 1966 was Mr. Felix Austin. The head of the army was Colonel Clarence Price.
Happy 53rd Independence Anniversary, beautiful Guyana. I am Lorene Ward. Welcome to Homestretch Magazine. In honor of this milestone, we will highlight the evolution of independence, symbols of nationhood, personality of the week, and an independence celebration. It's 53 years since we became a self-governed nation free from the influences of British rule. As we reflect, let us return from the history from whence we came.
Guyanese around the world celebrate independence and remember it as an event that represents a significant turn in Guyana's history. Prior to independence, Guyana was a colony ruled by the British. In the 40s and early 50s, the citizenry emerged with the idea of the need for self-governance. Among these were the late Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham and Cheddi Jagan, two iconic leaders to have served Guyana, both of whom, despite their political differences, unambiguously identified the achievement of independence as a necessity. Guyanese at that time yearned for freedom, and so we spoke with veteran journalist Francis Faria, who gave us an insight on what the atmosphere was like during this time.
I'd like to use the word euphoria. People were extremely anxious, excited about this freedom. And at that time, let's start to talk about in the arts, because as you know, I'm in the theater. There were lots and lots of new poems, new plays, new songs, all with a patriotic flavor to them. Guyanese were extremely happy at that time to be independent, to be free of the British rule. Some would even say the British yoke, in which Guyanese were unable to, as it were, aim beyond a certain level. For example, in the police force, you couldn't reach the level of wearing khaki, in other words, inspector and that sort of thing. There was a level where you were cut off. And in many, many instances, a local person could not aspire to be at the very top of whatever field he or she would have been in. So when the independence bells were ringing, as it were, the Guyanese people knew that new doors, new vistas were opening up, and they could aspire to their wildest dreams. People dreamed of becoming bigger than their parents or grandparents could ever have dreamed of. So you had that expectancy of a better life and being able to achieve what your parents, grandparents, and great-grandparents were unable to aspire to.
The idea of a self-governed Guyana was unacceptable to the British, since it had just lost India as a colony after it became an independent state in 1947. The trauma of losing British India still lingered, and so there was a firm grip on British Guyana.
Well, first of all, they sabotaged, if you will, the political, or tried to sabotage the political movement of that time with Dr. Cheddi Jagan and Mr. Forbes Burnham and others. Because although one would want to say that Dr. Cheddi Jagan and Mr. Forbes Burnham were the founders, there are lots of people working, like Eden, like Critchlow, and these people, there were lots of people, some well-known, others not so well-known, who were rallying for this freedom of Guyanese to rule ourselves.
The British were not ready to give up more colonies or grant self-rule, especially in circumstances where the territory was likely to become a client state of the communist bloc. Despite the efforts of the West to instill fear in the people by highlighting the nefarious nature of communism, the PPP emerged victorious in the 1953 elections. Mr. Hamilton Green tells us more.
In the 1960s, which preceded our independence date, the world was in confusion. We were, so to speak, in the height of a very vicious and all-consuming Cold War. In 1961, there was the Bay of Pigs, an attempted invasion of Cuba by some set of American dissidents. Of course, in 1962, had a missile crisis where the two giants, United States and USSR, faced off against each other as a result of the crisis in Cuba with the missiles and Turkey. Thank God for Kennedy and Khrushchev. The world was saved from total destruction.
This intensified the rising tension of the British, who then dispatched troops to suspend the 1953 Constitution, claiming that there was a threat of a communist state being established in the country. In 1965, at the final independence conference, several issues were brought to the fore and resolved. However, Jagan and members of the PPP were absent from this conference that was deemed as a historic event. After much deliberations, a proposal was made by Burnham, and it was agreed upon that May 26 would be the day of Guyana's independence. On May 26, 1966, for the very first time in history, the golden arrowhead was hoisted, and for the last time in Guyana, the Union Jack was lowered. Guyanese were bursting with tearful pride.
I was at the national park in all the excitement, and I can tell you many people cried with joy, because here at last, all the years, the decades of struggle is bearing fruit. And when that golden arrowhead went up, when Dr. Chedi Jagan and Mr. Forbes Burnham hugged, it was, it's one thing for me to relate this to you. It's like trying to explain the mighty Kaito to anybody in words. You've got to see it for yourself. One would have had to be there that night of May 25th, 1966. It's not easy to explain how people felt. Finally, we are free. This is our Guyana, our independent Guyana.
As we celebrate, may we continue to actively participate in nation building, striving to make Guyana a better place. Gaining freedom and becoming independent, Guyana acquired symbols of nationhood.
On Thursday, May 26, 1966, in Guyana's National Park, formerly known as the Queen Elizabeth Park, Guyana held its first independence celebration. Embracing independence and adopting to freedom from British rule, Guyana commissioned symbols of her nationhood.
Symbols of nationhood are important to every country. Guyana's symbols of nationhood set us apart from any other country, makes us distinct.
Guyana's national flag, the Golden Arrowhead, was designed by Whitney Smith, a flag historian. Proved by the College of Arms, the wonder of a flag consists of 5 colors, which all have significant meanings. The red triangle found at the base is symbolic of the zeal and dynamic task of nation building, which is the responsibility of our young nation. The black and white stripes represent the endurance and strength of the Guyanese people and Guyana's many rivers and water potential, respectively. Gold on the flag symbolizes the nation's wealth. The green of the flag, which is the greatest portion, symbolizes vast forests and agriculture. The coat of arms showcases aspects of Guyana's flora and fauna. On the coat of arms, you will find a crest of an Amerindian headdress symbolizing our nation's indigenous people. This crest is also called the cacique's crown. 2 diamonds at the sides of the crown represent the mining industry. There are 2 jaguars holding a pickaxe, sugar cane, and a stalk of rice, which represents our country's mining, sugar, and rice industries respectively. The jaguars support a shield. The shield is adorned with Guyana's national flower, the national bird. 3 blue wavy lines represent Guyana's main rivers. On a scroll below the shield is Guyana's motto: one people, one nation, one destiny.
One people, one nation, one destiny. Everybody sing it.
The Hotsin, or kanji pheasant, meaning a pheasant with a crest down its back, is Guyana's national bird. Found along the banks of the Berbice River, Kanji, and on the Abari, among other rivers, the kanji pheasant is approximately 22 inches long from beak to tail. Flying short distances at a time, the young Hotsin has the ability to swim in the event of danger. Feeding on leaves and aquatic vegetation, this magnificent bird has a crest of long feathers on its head, giving it a majestic look. Discovered by Robert Schomburg. Native to the Amazon and surrounding areas in South America, the Victoria Regia lily, Guyana's national flower, is a flowering plant but also a member of the water lily family. Short-lived, the flower is white when it first opens. On day 2, the flowers expand, turning pink, and start withering by the 3rd day. This delicate flower measures from 10 inches to 1 foot in diameter, and the leaves up to 8 feet. Known as the largest cats, which can be found in North, South, and Central America, the jaguar is Guyana's national animal. Adult jaguars weigh between 124 to 210 pounds and can grow to approximately 6 feet in length. This carnivore's lifespan is about 15 years. The jaguar's natural habitat is by swamps, rivers, and dense forests. The winning submission of a nationwide competition in the 1960s, Guyana's national anthem was written by Reverend A.L. Luker and music composed by R.C.G. Potter. Dear Land of Guyana consists of 60 lines in 4 stanzas, sung in the form of a hymn evoking the history, traditions, and struggles of our nation and her people. Guyana's national pledge was written by Reverend A.L. Luker and is repeated at official functions, schools, among others. Protocol requires each individual at any gathering to display some measure of reverence by ceremonially placing the right arm across one's heart as the pledge is repeated. These are our symbols of nationhood.
The golden arrowhead, the jaguar as our national animal, the Victoria Regia as our national flower, the Hotsin or kanji pheasant as our national bird, our national anthem, our national pledge. All those pieces are unique to Guyana, and Guyanese would know them. They have value and they have meaning to Guyanese, and they set us apart. They're also very important symbols of our independence from Britain. When we became independent, we would have discarded all the symbols that were important to Britain and taken on our own symbols that will represent us as a people, our history, our past, our present, and our future wealth as a people and as a country. So what you see represented in the 7 symbols of nationhood really represent us as a people.
We recognize our beautiful land with these symbols. Dear land of Guyana, oh, we love her so. Our personality of the week is well known. He was a witness to the hoisting of the Golden Arrowhead for the first time, May 26, 1966. November 9, 1934, in the southern ward of Georgetown, the only son of his parents, Mr. Hamilton Green, a man wearing many hats. Mr. Green attended St. Stanislaus and Queen's College. At college, he was an outstanding champion athlete, Boy Scout, and cadet. He worked in the public sector but quit for a full-time politician job. In 1962, the legend became the youngest General Secretary of the People's National Congress. He was elected to Parliament in 1968, became Minister of Government in 1969, appointed Vice President in 1980, First Deputy Prime Minister in 1983, and Prime Minister in 1985. Hamilton Green is the only surviving member of three who attended the final independence conference in London to fix a date for Guyana's independence.
So when we arrived in London, again it was an exciting time. And I remember Bonham turning to the British government and saying, Mr. Colonial Secretary, when will you send your troops to suppress those renegades in Rhodesia? And the Secretary said, oh, Mr. Bonner, you're a naughty chap. But the point Bonner was making is that in 1953 they sent troops here when they thought we were violating the British Constitution. But because Rhodesia was white, nothing happened. And we know the rest of the story.
The Scorpio born was one of many people there midnight on May 25, 1966, for the lowering of the Union Jack and hoisting of the Golden Arrowhead as the nation recited the national anthem.
Fantastic experience. National Park, up then still called the Queen Elizabeth Park, was packed to capacity. There were visitors from many countries, the developed countries and the developing countries. The Caribbean was well represented. And as the Union Jack was lowered and the Golden Arrowhead was hoisted for the first time, as a young activist, tears came to my eyes. And that moment was a moment of satisfaction and passion because I'd worked, made sacrifices for the independence struggle. And when Forbes Burnham and Cheddy Jagan hugged each other in that bear hug, the whole park erupted in rapture.
As Guyana continues to celebrate this beautiful land as an independent nation, here's advice from the elderly statesman.
So independence should mean an acceptance by our young people of our checkered history and a people who are stimulated intellectually must be able to overcome that history, understand it, and move to the next level and make independence a reality.
Mr. Hamilton Green, a husband, father, grandfather, former mayor of Georgetown for 21 years and national awardee, the Order of Arimer for his dedicated service to Guyana for over 6 decades. Mr. Green anchored his life using history as a lesson for others. Today marks a special day on our calendar. As we celebrate this auspicious moment, Guyanese were treated to an evening of song and poetry.
The land just off the Atlantic, land of jungles, waterfalls, and sweet scenery, where poor people farm the land and hunt the water, oh yeah, and all live in peace and harmony. This is Guyana, beautiful Guyana. This is Guyana, beautiful Guyana.
Guyana is celebrating her 53rd year of being an independent nation. As customary, cultural programs are organized in the preservation of our rich, diverse culture.
I was born in the city of gold.
I was born in the land where water rolls down the Rhine, glides through the savannas, rides as rivers deep within the dense forest, then slowly settles along the hilly sand and clay. It rushes into the coastal plains, flooding the trenches and the drains, and back into the Atlantic to begin the process again. It is rain and sun in the land I was born. I was born in near 3,000 square miles of splendor. South American, West Indian, 592 is her number. Land of the jaguar, Camudi, and cayman. Land of bauxite, manganese, and diamond. Land of 6 people united in one, 1966. She became her own woman. She is cook up cassava pone, pepper pot curry, metamg roti sauce, and paiwari. I was born in a beautiful country, so please, would you lend me your ears for a while I tell you about a beautiful place?
The Ministry of the Presidency, Department of Social Cohesion, Culture, Youth and Sport hosted an event of national and folk songs, storytelling, and poetry at the Guyana.
Our fathers fought the fight for liberty. Forever I'll defend Guyana free. Guyana, Guyana, I'll be holding on to you forevermore. May the blessings of God never leave your shore. He didn't come by himself this time. He brought his warriors. Warriors! Our task for today is to kill God. God has got to die. His eyes past me. Well, God and his wife get frightened. And they pack their belongings and they head in. They jump in a canoe, they're paddling. Tom Shaka with his warriors coming out. Ah! God, you're dead! God, you're dead! 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 He reached the peak of the mountain and he looked down. And God saw Tom Shaka and his warriors coming. And he looked up. Ah! Guess what did he see? He saw a spider. And the spider was Bera and Nancy. I can help you, said Bera and Nancy. I can help you. I can put me down my web and pull you and your wife up into the heaven. God, what are you going to give Bera and Nancy? God said, whatever you want. Whatever I want? You sure? You sure you can afford that? Could you just pull us up? And the spider loosed his web. And God took it. And his wife, the moon, they took it. And Nancy started to pull them up. Tom Shaka is right behind them. They're halfway in the air. And the spears flying. Jumps! 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 So Nancy saved God that day. That is why God went to heaven and he never come back to earth.
Laughter filled the air as the audience joined in the fun as they sang popular Guyanese folk songs.
Nation away your nation, 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 come show me a nation, 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 nation away your nation, nation. Oh, my baby, brown skin girl, say oh my baby, brown skin girl, say oh my baby. Jane and Jane, I say rock your body when I run a coca and something, come away, run a coca, run a coca and something, come away, run a coca. Jane and Jane.
Happy independence to all Guyanese.
Guyana, land of the free. Let's join in the celebration of our victory. Trust you enjoyed this week's journey. I am Lorene Ward. Thank you for spending time with us. Remember to like our Homestretch Magazine Facebook page and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Until we meet again, be safe, keep smiling, and stay positive.